took inspired action by forming Second Chance Foods. Rather than observing the problem from afar, she decided to be part of the solution. So please welcome Alison. By training thousands of children to empty and sort containers into the correct bins. Garbage was reduced by 22 large garbage bags per lunch down to 2, a 90% reduction. A concerned mom and businesswoman, Anna's vision is to save the world, one school district at a time. And we welcome Anna Giordano. Thank you. And last but not least, please welcome Sarah Warmer. She has been an innovator in the waste management field for over 5 years, initially compelled to eliminate styrofoam from in. Sarah's experience includes managing numerous zero waste events, river cleanups, and a thriving community compost pickup program. Sarah has always thought differently about waste. To date, she has diverted over 50 tons of waste from the landfill. Her company Zero to Go's compost program currently reaches 50 residents and 10 businesses and is growing weekly. She is the 2012 winner of the Dutchess County Chamber of Commerce's 40 Under 40 Award and was named as one of the 9 people to watch in 2016 by Hudson Valley Magazine. Please welcome Sarah Warmer. So it's wonderful to have the three of you with us. Before I turn over the mic to our community members who've joined us here, I'd like to, the three of you have taken very strong commitments to be able to try and address this problem that I think everybody in the room can agree we wish did not exist the way that it does. And certainly there have been shifts in collective behaviors with, in my lifetime, seatbelts or recycling. There's certainly major shifts that we've made in our culture. What can we do? What is it that we can make a big picture cultural shift to address this? And you can go in any order you want. Whoever wants to pick up the mic first. Is it on? Okay. It has to start with kids. That's where we have to start. And that's why I see working in the schools as being so effective, because the kids are learning it and they are like lapping it up, and they are the ones that then bring it home to mom. And mom then is being pressured by her 2-year-old, a second grader, to change her behavior. And that's the only way that this is going to happen.
I think it goes back to what they said in the movie about changing our mindset, and really with any issue, when we bring our attention and our awareness to it, then things begin to shift. And it really speaks to how disconnected we are from the source of our food. And so getting back to that place where we can really see that it's not just even the water and the electricity and the refrigeration, all of that, but also even on a cosmic level, the sunlight and the rain and the nutrients in the soil, to really hit home that we are connected to our food. I think that would start to shift things a lot.
I agree with both of your thoughts there, and I think everything counts. Every single little bit that we do has an impact, and it matters, and it counts. So if you go to the grocery store tomorrow and you just buy what you know you're going to eat, and you stick to that for the week, that is awesome, and it makes a difference.
Well, I will just warn you that nobody's ready to ask the first question, and everybody wants to ask the last question. So when you think you're ready to ask a question, please do, because they kick us out of the library. And before they do, we want to make sure that there's time for everybody to ask, to connect with each other. Here we go.
It's not really a question, but it's a comment that I thought I wonder if this food waste, I'm not sure that it began at this point, but with the popularity and advent of these big box stores like Costco and Sam's Club, like go out and get like huge quantities of food that at a really great price, and bring it home and then let it waste. I personally have never shopped at those places. It was maybe partially a storage issue. I mean, here in the suburbs, we have big houses, we have basements and attics, and places to store all those huge quantities of stuff. So I really wonder whether that in some way has contributed to the tremendous amount of waste that we have.
I wonder if there's a connection between where you live and the amount of food waste. I mean, I'm sure they waste food in New York City, and they sure don't have a lot of storage room for the most part. But does anybody have any awareness of just the influence of the mindset of big box stores, other than the fact that I think that probably makes sense to most of us? This is a pretty self-selecting group here, and I bet all of us can pat ourselves on the back for something that we do really well. I was sitting here watching thinking, oh, I never do that, and I never do that. And since I shop at the farmer's market, I'm not like those people. But then I can also remember that I did throw away celery and carrots last week. So, anybody else?
So this question is for Anna. What exactly do you do with the children? Is it they compost the food, or what exactly? Can you explain the program?
Well, I actually brought you some pictures of that. Can you find it? Because it started out for me when I was unrelated in the lunchroom of my kids for a school event. And I saw the kids throw out their lunch. And it just drove me absolutely bananas because they were mindless, throwing their full tray out. And I saw the custodians just bringing bag of trash outside, and I counted it, and I weighed it, and I realized we made every day, this is out of one school, that amount of trash. And I surveyed the stuff, and I realized 90 to 95% of the stuff could be recycled if it's just sorted out. Just sort it out. And so I went out and I taught the kids to sort. And I realized most of it, about 20 to 30% was liquid that the kids didn't drink. So I taught them to empty it into a bucket. And then the container was recyclable, put it in a recycling bucket. Food was compostable, so empty your food into the compost bucket. And then stack your tray. And the tray, I fought hard to get styrofoam trays out of the system to replace them with compostable trays. And the compostable trays are then compostable too. So we had a reduction of, look at those two kids, I love these kids. So all the milk cartons are going into the recycling can, and you may be aware of the material recovery facility in Yonkers has just recently, on April 23rd, they have added milk cartons as part of commingled. So you can put your milk cartons, which are gable tops, and then your sauce cartons, which are aseptic containers, into commingled now. So if you look at that, the green bags were food waste, the clear bags were recyclables, the trays were there, and the only trash we had was this kitchen-sized bag weighing 3 pounds, just clear plastic. Like plastic baggies and wrappers and things like that. That is it. So those are some of the numbers that we had, because we also sorted out the untouched food. And that was really what got me the most, is that we had crates over crates of untouched food that the kids were given but didn't intend to consume. And so, if you go ahead and have a picture of that. Yeah, that one. So that was from just one lunch period in that school. We have 6 lunch periods. So we had 6 copy paper boxes of fruits and milk and juice coming out of this school. And it took me a while to find a soup kitchen to work with, which is really the biggest issue, is to find a place that will take the food, that will come and pick it up. That's really my biggest hurdle, and I'm excited to meet you, because that was the one hurdle that I could only cover sketchily. Go ahead. Is there one more picture? Oh, so what what we wanted to do is teach the kids about the waste-free part, that food is really about being healthy. And that's what we did. So we created, in addition to the lunchroom part, we created a classroom portion of it, where we taught the kids that food that comes directly from the earth tends to be healthier for you, and it comes without packaging, naturally. And so we made it a game for them to earn leaves to put on our waste-free leaf tree each time that they are packaging-free and healthy. And these kids were going for it. And every day they come home saying, can't come to school saying, I taught my daddy today to give me not plastic baggies, but to put it in a box. And that's how we create a change in the community.
Neat. Thank you for that. Yes?
How and where do you do your composting? Doesn't matter. Whoever does composting.
I compost at my house.
At your house is one thing. You have school waste.
School
Where
waste.
is that composted?
So most of my schools are going to a commercial carter. So I have one commercial carter that picks up my school food waste, and it goes to a commercial food waste composting site in New Milford, Connecticut. Westchester County does not have a food waste composting site yet. I'm working with White Plains, Eastchester, and New Rochelle in order to create a food waste composting site. It is hugely difficult because of the legality of it. So you have to have a particular permit to have a food waste composting site. The municipalities that actually do leaf composting, there are very few that actually do leaf composting. They would be the ones that are perfectly set up to add the food to it. But it's this issue of we're taking garbage from another community, or we're going to have vectors, so rats or raccoons coming in. It's a huge problem, but the awareness and the fact that we're teaching the kids is already helping.
And then what do they do with the food in the wintertime? Composting is difficult in the winter.
Oh no, this food waste, the commercial composting site where we're going to, it's in the old Nestle factory. It's actually barned. And so it's in barns, it's a forced aerated system.
Yep.
They do it all year long.
Does the town of Ossining do any composting?
I will put on my mayor's hat for a moment. And I'm sorry to say that no, we do not have a municipal composting program. You mentioned leaf waste. The village of Ossining has an organic matter transfer station. If anybody lives in the village, you know that at the beginning of every week you can put your organic matter out in a compostable bag and it'll be picked up. That's a year-round program. The leaf vacuum program we do in the fall, which we'd be better off if we considered doing something different. But we do not have a leaf composting. We're a transfer station, and we then deliver it to a space outside. So no, we don't. And frankly, we have looked into it, and I've pushed for it. And there's been talks on and off in the county of municipalities partnering together. We're losing our microphone. No, partnering together to do some sort of centrally located organic matter composting place. And it's got to be someplace where there's a lot of land. And the village of Ossining is 3.5 square miles, so we're not the most likely municipality to take that on.
I want to talk for a moment about where my compost goes that I pick up. In 10 months, I've picked up 28 tons of food waste by bicycle in Beacon, and it goes to Kingston, where there's an industrial compost facility, and I pay a hauler to bring it there. And my vision for the future is to have a compost facility in Beacon. And I found out some good news. I don't know if this applies to you here, but anywhere that is doing yard waste composting has a permit to do that. And all we need to do is amend the permit to accept food waste, which sounds so easy because I've been thinking for a long time about sites and the permit itself and the equipment and the training and the staff and the land. And it's a pretty big endeavor to create a compost facility, but to think about inserting food waste into a functioning system, which is exactly how Kingston did it, is much more financially easier, and it's a great idea. So that's what I'm thinking about for Beacon.
So Kingston has, what you're saying is Kingston has a food waste composting facility?
Yes, it does, and Dutchess County only has one facility, and it's an hour and a half north of Beacon, and Ulster County has one facility, really. There's 2 or 3 other little farms that are accepting the material, but it's not like open to everybody, so it's complicated. We need infrastructure, is all I'm saying.
And it's very true with this amendment. However, and that is the biggest part of it, you can only amend the leaf composting site to accept food waste if the food waste is not bagged. Even compostable bags. So that is the main issue, that now I have to recreate a system of how can I transport unbagged food waste. And the next problem is that a lot of the schools having paper products as disposable trays or paper boats and napkins. So you have the amount of paper products in there too, and that also creates a problem. But the biggest issue was, and I was on the phone with the DEC for a long time with that, is this concept of bagged. It's just so ridiculous.
Can I not use that?
You asked everybody.
Okay. Hi, first of all, I just want to say congratulations to all of you and thank you for all of your efforts. Question for Anna, how hard was it for you to get into the schools and actually get them to agree to do this? And then afterwards, if Alison, if you could just tell us a little bit about exactly what you do? Thank you.
That is a fabulous question. It is hugely difficult to get into schools. Hugely, hugely difficult. I mean, garbage seems to be a real personal thing. And also, if you suggest to a school to do a recycling program, they will point to the lone blue bin in the corner, and they will say, we have a recycling program. And every head custodian that you talk to say, hey, let's do a recycling program. And this school does that, and we've reduced our waste for that much. It's going to look at you with big eyes, and suddenly the testosterones come out, and you have this issue of you're trying to tell him his job. It's really hard. But once you have a bottom to the top movement by parents that are pushing for it, and you have either the director of facility or the superintendent that is somewhat inclined to do this, you have some momentum. But at the end, and that's really the most frustrating part, is that it comes down to money. Food waste, a lot of the the school districts are being either picked up for free by their municipalities, or they have a commercial carder that picks them up. So there's either money involved that they pay for food, for garbage, or they get it for free. If they get it for free from their municipalities, they have no incentive to do this. And to make them understand that they're in the business of educating kids, and environmental literacy is part of the project. And okay, it costs a little bit of money. This commercial carder that we use costs $325 per month per building for 10 months. That's $3,200 per school. That is nothing on the scale of the school budget, but that is where it stops every time. Unless you have the PTO pick it up, or the director of facility or the superintendent for business saying, all right, we're going to invest this. That's something they spend on drinks for their board meetings.
Talk to the mayor.
The problem with the mayors is I presented this to the municipal, to the Westchester's official municipal.
Westchester Municipal Officials Association?
Exactly. The problem is school districts and town governments are separate fiefdoms. They don't talk to each other, they don't share funds. Unless the municipality says, we're not going to pick you up for free anymore unless you do this, there's no incentive for that.
Go ahead, Alison, that's okay.
Hi. So to tell you a little, before I tell you more about Second Chance Foods, I would just like to say that personally I was really just blown away when I learned that 40% of our food ends up in the garbage. I was just blown away. I was actually inspired by last week tonight with John Oliver show, he has a really great segment on food waste, and if you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend you watch it. And I was truly inspired to take action. And so I formed Second Chance Foods, and we are a nonprofit organization, and we're dedicated to rescuing unsold, unserved, and aesthetically imperfect foods and distributing it. We distribute to places like soup kitchens and food pantries and shelters in an effort to reduce food waste and hunger. And we have literally been in operation for 6 weeks. But I'm happy to announce that we've rescued more than 1,000 pounds of food, and we are in the process of expanding our network of stores and farms and food pantries and all of that. So we are also in the process of raising money so that we can purchase our first refrigerated truck, because that will certainly make our operation much more efficient. So our goal is to really make that process of collecting foods that would otherwise be discarded and getting it to the people who need it the most, to streamline that process and to fill that distribution gap.
Hi, I teach a course called Food Revolution at PACE, and I agree with Anna, it's really hard to change the food culture. So I just wanted to throw out a few comments. One, do you all know Doug DeCandia? Doug DeCandia is a wonderful farmer who works for the food bank for Westchester. And he's got 5 or 6 or more gardens around Westchester County that go directly to the food bank, so that there is a component of fresh foods. And one of the problems that food pantries have, and maybe you've encountered this, is that they usually don't have refrigerators. So I understand, your idea of a refrigerated truck is hugely important, because often they can't take a whole bunch of fresh food that a farmer or a farmer's market can't use, because they don't have the refrigerated facilities, or cheeses or milks or things like that, or eggs. They don't have the refrigerated. So that's why these things are stocked too much with Campbell's soup cans and mac and cheese. But we just recently, you made a comment about bottom up, and I could relate to that. We just are in the process of building a small hoop house on the campus at PACE. It came out of an initiative that we got a banner printed up called Grow Food, Not Lawns. And we got funding from the Legacy Fund from the class of 2016, the graduating class. And I have to say that, many people within the establishment, even within the environmental center within the school, are sort of like shocked that this is just like every Sunday there's a team of volunteers that I'm organizing. And the hoop house is being created. Our aspirations, because of changing the culture, it's a slow process. We've constantly been faced with, well, who's going to run in the summer? I mean, it's almost like, or we could put it down there on that hillside with the slope and all the dead trees, and it would be like, we just need to clear the land, level it out, bring in some stairs, and then we could put the hoop house there and be like, that would be great for the Legacy Fund of 2019. But, it doesn't sound so good for something happening now. So it's a real uphill battle. And even just, the hoop house that we got and the lumber and all that, we're doing this for under $2,200. And just, there's already discussion that there's nobody to hire as an, it's, yet there's always like a new, it's an ever-expanding higher education in terms of administration. I'm sure you're all aware of that. So it's like there's no, anyway, I sound like I'm complaining, and I probably am, but I just wonder if there's anybody in the audience who has an experience building hoop houses, because we're at the final stage, and we are going to be putting on the plastic and learning how to roll up. Hoop houses, by the way, are very inexpensive greenhouses. made out of plastic and arched steel or aluminum poles. And so I mean, you can never build a greenhouse of any size for $2,000. So, and they come smaller, and they extend our growing season here in the Northeast considerably. They're a great way to start your own plants from seed, etc. But, you know, and we're doing this to hopefully get people on campus away from the culture of just going into the cafeteria, buying something, you know, to learning more about where their food comes from. So our idea is to have containers outside of the cafeteria with basil and you know, cherry tomatoes and kale with signs that say, pick me, put me on your pizza. And you know, anything to get people.
I think we've all heard frustration with getting people to actually step up and do the work, even if we can all agree that the ideal would be ideal.
Our second chance challenge is the food that's left over from events. And events tend to happen in the evening when food banks are closed. And there's the issue of, as you experience, getting somebody to pick it up or taking it there yourself and having a food bank that has refrigeration capabilities. Have you thought about accommodating the events people who always have lots of food left over?
Well, that does bring up some of the issues that we encounter just with scheduling and, you know, picking up food when there is a place to bring it ideally. And, you know, so these are some of the things that we're going to need to iron out. Certainly when you're talking about food that's already been prepared, you know, it brings up other issues, and certainly refrigeration is one of them. The pantries that I'm currently working with, they actually do have refrigeration. The one in Fishkill's actually expanded in this past year to get more refrigeration. And also I'm also open to the idea of even possibly having my own network of families that I deliver to directly. So I'm trying to think outside the box to figure out the best way to make this work.
Where are you based, Allison?
I live in Fishkill.
You do, okay.
I have something to add to that, actually. If you don't mind, I'm just going to add to that. I've been handling zero waste events for the last 4 years, and one of the things that I do is, well, let me just explain it quickly. Zero waste event, like imagine like a beer festival or something like this, where there's thousands of people coming together to eat and drink for the day. My organization plans with the vendors and the organizers to make sure that everything is recyclable or compostable. So our best event ever had 4,500 people and only 8 bags of trash and 120 bags of compost. One of the things that we do in our planning process is make sure that we've got a plan in place for that extra food, and having volunteers grab the extra food and bring it right to families in need, right to soup kitchens, to their own refrigerators overnight, and then they bring it to the soup kitchen in the morning. That's one thing. And I was at a conference in Jacksonville, the US Compost Council conference in January, and somebody who lived in a big city had a really cool idea that I want to share with you all. They said you can use Uber and 7-Eleven or some chains like this where, say there's like a wedding and a big like hotel or something, like the Poughkeepsie Grand comes to my mind. Afterwards, the Garrison, all of the food can go from that facility to, you know, and imagine you're in like a big city like Chicago or something, or New York. The stuff can go from that facility to like the 7-Eleven with the help of Uber, and then the next morning, somebody can go and take that material and bring it to the soup kitchen. That's one way that we can utilize all the extra refrigeration space that is already out there and just be innovative, and it costs basically nothing to do it. It's fun.
When I was in high school, we used to do what we called muffining, which wasn't as much environmental as it was troublemaking. But we'd stake out grocery stores when they were doing their baked good throwaways, and they'd just put in the aisles, just fill trash bags full of all the baked goods that came out. So we'd run through the store and grab them up and go and throw a baked good party at a field or on a beach or something. But even today, I have friends that live most of their lives on wasted food and get a lot of their food from dumpsters. There's this criminal element to getting food out of dumpsters because they feel that it's their property. And we've seen in the documentary store owners saying that they don't want to open themselves up to lawsuits. According to the documentary, that is not true. Is there any outreach to managers of grocery stores, owners of grocery stores, that have changed people's mindset about allowing people, or is it just an economic thing guised as lawsuits, that they don't want people to have food for free, they want them to pay for it? But it seems to me that all of this waste is also considered their property, that you're stealing from them if you take it away from being picked up and thrown away to trash. So do grocery store owners, managers, are they coming around on that at all? Is there any outreach to them? Or
The places that I'm working with now, one of them is Food Town in Croton, and they've been really great and really open to me taking anything that they are discarding. And I'm really trying to kind of fill in the blanks where it's like you mentioned, like the baked goods, and you go around to soup kitchens and the food pantries, they really have a lot of that. So I'm really, I'm a health coach, so I'm passionate about healthy food, so I'm trying to go for the produce, and certainly in the movie they talk about all the resources that go into the meat and dairy and the perishable items. They've been really open. I haven't seen anything about, feeling like I'm stealing something that they could have sold. However, up by me at the Nature's Pantry, I also collect food produce from them, but I'm still working on the owner because I did get the, he was not comfortable with giving me any of the other perishable items that were close to the date or at their date. However, I am in the process of creating a flyer that will inform donors about the Good Samaritan law in the state of New York that ensures them that they will not be sued. And also part of it is education, letting them know that the food is perfectly good, and to ensure them that it's going to be distributed quickly and efficiently so that the food's not going bad in the process.
As I'm dealing with schools, I have this entire government aspect to it. And schools are particularly careful when it comes to, our kids could get sick. But there are two layers of difficulty in school in order to donate food. One is the fact the food that the kids are being given but don't consume. That goes into the share basket that you saw as a picture. That food then belongs to the children, and we can donate that without the school being, oh my God, it's tax money or government property. What is really difficult is when they have a stacked kitchen and we're looking at a 3-day weekend, or if they have a stacked kitchen and we're looking at a snow day or something like that. That is where it comes in, oh my God, this is tax dollars and we can't donate it. And then, if this is not already difficult enough, we're looking at the fact that a lot of the kitchens are run by food service. Those are for-profit organizations. The managers really get in trouble if they have to donate food because that comes out of their bottom line. But if they carefully let it run out of date and then discard it, then it ran out of date because of the snow day. So it's this funny business of dealing with it, which is really the hard part of it.
I have a question.
Yes, go for it. You have the
So if it's a fallacy, the expiration date, if it is that, and we know why it is, there's incentive obviously to sell more food and get it off the shelf and all, but how, why is everybody buying into it, and how can we change that?
All about education all day. It's been in effect. There's a lot of confusion and misunderstanding about what that is, and the health department needs to come out and enforce more. Flyers like yours need to be circulated more. And then sometimes, like in the school that I'm trying to work with in Beacon, that same tray of food that kids didn't eat, like the apples and milk and stuff, they aren't allowed to have that in a spot where kids can take it if they wanted another orange or apple, and it goes into the garbage, and they can't use it again the next day. And you could probably talk about why that is more than I can't even understand, but it's just, there's a lot of layers here.
I just ran into that issue. So schools are required to keep a dietary log on their kids, so because of allergies and things like that. So when kids eat there, when they get food from the cafeteria, they have their little card with a code, and it says that this kid is allergic to dairy, or this kid is allergic to blah blah. And so that food is then controlled within the cafeteria line. Once they step out of the cafeteria line, it's not controlled anymore. So we have this backlash. Not that we had any issues with it, but the concept that suddenly those apples and pears and milks and juices were in the share basket and were ready for taking, there was this fear of, oh my God, a kid that is allergic might grab a milk. And not that, of course this kid knows he's allergic to milk, but it's this overly protective aspect that schools have. And that is really the problem. So we worked around that by the schools where they enforce that part, we don't let the kids take more, but we can donate it to the Boys and Girls Club in the afternoon. At that point, it's not their responsibility anymore. So that's how we work around that. But we do see that. It's really the principal who makes or breaks this.
So Anna, I wish I had all the information, but I do want to bring it back to the experience here in Ossining with our schools and our community. You were with the schools in 2013, and you worked with the municipality as well at that time. And I think that some of the practices that you helped people learn about then are still in place and some are not. And now, particularly with the gable top cartons being recyclable, seems like a really great time for the schools to renew this conversation about sorting. I just so happen to have two plants here, one from Brookside School and one from Claremont School, Paxton and Levon. If you could just tell me, I think we talked about this after school because I had a conversation with Anna on the radio on Monday, so I learned a little bit about what she did with the schools. At the end of your lunch, if you have a little bit of milk left in your milk carton, do you pour it out or do you just throw the whole thing in the trash?
You pour it out.
You pour it out. Is there like a bucket or something for all the liquid? Okay. And now what, is there anything else that you sort, or you just pour out the liquid and everything else goes in the trash?
We pour out the liquid and some stuff is recycling.
Okay, so you do have some recycling. So is that like napkins go in recycling? And what else? Anything else? And at Claremont you don't have any recycling. It's just liquids and trash. Okay, so we obviously have some growing that we could do in Brookside and at Claremont, which I imagine is pretty similar throughout the districts. I will also say, and you mentioned parents being concerned about allergies and kids being exposed to food once it's gone out of the lunch line system. I know one of the parents you worked with was Erin Zebelman, who was a leader in the families with kids with allergies or concerns about that. So, and she was very active with you, so I assume that in Ossining you had some parents who were receptive to figuring out how to really make this work. So it's just perhaps a matter of renewing the conversation with the schools. And to the point of municipalities,
the library will be closing in a half hour. Please note the computers will be shutting down in about 15 minutes. Please save all your work.
Okay.
so it doesn't take as long as I think. That the municipalities and the schools working together, Tuesday evening, 7:30, The village board, the town board, and members of the school board, and possibly the library board will all be in this room together, and we're talking about how to work together to have a fresh approach to the Ossining water system, which is really shared through the village and the town. So I just wanted to say we are starting to work together on some things. We've not broached this subject, but perhaps there's some reason to be optimistic that we could.
Hi, this is a question for Sarah. Can you talk a little about what you do or what your approach is with educating folks who are, so for example, we're going to be opening a jazz club in Tarrytown. And I'd love to kind of be very conscious of how we approach our food and make sure that we're kind of being very conscious about it, or conscientious about it. So are you doing some education programs for merchants or for restaurants? Are you doing any of that kind of thing?
In my program, we work with restaurants, and essentially what we do is we set up a compost system in their kitchen where all the organics can go into the bin and then get bagged up and brought out to a larger can, and then we come by and pick it up. As soon as we start doing that, I always see that restaurants struggle to recycle as much as they could and should. Space is a concern for basically every single commercial kitchen there is. And recycling is something that is done with like tin cans and some cardboard and some egg cartons, things that are big and bulky, but there's so much that can get recycled that isn't really considered. So I think you're already way ahead of everybody else and just wanting to approach it in a way like that, where you've got comprehensive systems that cover it all. So I would say just make sure you really understand your recycling program for your county and you understand exactly what goes in and buy what you need as far as the food goes. I know that you don't have access to compost facilities here, but maybe if you had a farmer that would come and pick up the food waste. Did you have something that? Oh yeah, that could be really helpful if you don't have access to a program like mine. Like the food pyramid showed, I can't stop thinking about that food pyramid and how effective it is. It's so amazing that what we're doing now is we're landfilling and incinerating all of our garbage, all of our food waste, basically. And if you look at the way that pyramid is flipped over, we should be feeding people and animals, and then we should be doing waste to energy, and then compost will actually just generate electricity through the food waste. And we're so backwards, we're so far behind. So anything you can do to like fit into that pyramid in any step is wonderful. And again, I think it's really about comprehensive systems and making sure things are set up really clearly, like have 3 bins together: compost, recycling, garbage, maybe the different sizes, labeling, staff training. What we do is we do surprise inspections after we've set everybody up and we've done trainings, and we've been doing this for a couple days, weeks. We come in and say, hey, how's it going? You have any questions? No? All right, mind if I take a look? And we do a surprise inspection. And I try to be really nice about everything, and I bring cookies sometimes. And, I tell everybody they're doing a great job. We weigh everything, and we want to make people excited. And I don't want to come down on everyone saying, yeah, you found all these gloves, you found these rubber bands, you guys are doing a terrible job. Instead of saying, oh, you know what, you guys increased your composting from 40 pounds to 80 pounds this week. That's great. And I think that you're having less contaminants. And, I try to make people feel positive because people want to do the right thing, and we have to help them to do it.
Quickly, where are you located?
Oh, I'm in Beacon.
Okay, and then do you come to Westchester? Would you meet with a group to do that kind of training, or?
I could, yeah. So me and my team certainly could do that. And the rules for Westchester are a little different than Dutchess. And again, infrastructure is just such a challenge for all of us. And right now, we're in a really exciting time for food waste composting, and this is the future of waste management. What we're doing here at this table, it is so exciting that you all are in this room tonight talking to us about waste, and you've been thinking about it for a few hours now, and that is the best. And if you can just go tell all your friends what you learned tonight and bring some of these ideas home, that's wonderful.
We have time for 1 or 2 more questions. And there we go. You want to go?
Hi, good evening. Thank you for your work and your dedication. I found out about compost about 3 or 4 years ago, I had no idea before that. And at the time I was living in the city, and I would take my food scraps to farmers market for them to pick up, and so I felt really good about that. Then I moved to Westchester, and so strangely as it sounds, there was no compost for residents. So I started saving, and I'm still doing it, saving my food scraps, putting them in the freezer, and then once or twice a month, I drive down to the city, usually on the weekends, to drop it off. But it's really hard to manage when you're busy, and we all have problems and work and life happens. So I was wondering, it's something I've been thinking about, for individuals to make it easier on them. I feel guilty when I throw away stuff, and I don't want to do that. But at the same time, if the system don't support individual efforts, it makes it really hard to do it on the long run. So what are your thoughts about that?
If you have a little bit of ground, you can do home composting, no problem. I mean, even on your balcony, you can do home composting. There are commercial composters available that are fully enclosed. You don't have issues with rats or flies or mice or any of that kind of stuff. Or bears. And it's an easy process, it's a clean thing you have in the corner somewhere, and you can deal with 40% of your waste. I home compost. I do have a garden, and I have it like shoved in the corner somewhere. But by sorting out all my hard plastics, glass and metals, and all my soft plastics on one side and my compost on the other side, I have, at the end of the week, 4 people, 2 handful of non-recyclable items. And so we can all do that, and it's very, very simple. We don't need a permit, we don't need much space. We can all do that.
You're better than me, Anna, and I do all recycling I can, and we home compost, but I definitely have a bag at the end of the week, and it's 2 little people and 2 grown-ups.
I'd like to say also, to build on what Anna was saying, specifically, you might want to look into bokashi composting. Have you heard of that? And then also the worm bin composting is another thing. What I did is I composted at my neighbor's house. I'd walk it down the street. Before that, I walked it over to a community garden. And that's part of why I created my compost pickup program. And now I'm serving 60 homes, and it's growing. People, I'm surprised at who's signed up. It's not the apartment dwellers I thought. It's actually a lot of homeowners who have families and kids and are busy. So we have to make it easy. We have to keep building infrastructure. We have to keep relying on Cornell Cooperative Extension and other organizations who are teaching compost and how to do it in your backyard. There's so much publications out there. We have to just keep getting that information out there and talking about it and make it easier.
Anna, you had said that some of the schools in the area are doing compost pickup. It's being picked up by Suburban Garden, which is actually located in Ossining, and they do transport it. Is that the one in Connecticut you were referring to? But individuals don't have that option. It's,
Yes, they do that for companies. There are a couple of residencies that have signed up for it. If you call Diane Chickering, she can tell you.
From Suburban Garden?
Yeah.
I was just going to say that, you know, all of the information can be really overwhelming, and I think that a lot of us, you know, we do feel guilty that, you know, we're not doing things perfectly, and, you know, I'm sure all of us have wasted food at some point in our lives somewhere along the way. But again, going back to just bringing your attention to it, that you can do so much. I mean, just from when I started this, I know that I've reduced the amount of food that I was wasting at home, and you know, even cutting less of the ends off the carrots and things like that. And also realizing that, kind of bringing it back to those traditional habits that people had of, you know, using all of that stuff, making a stock, you know, going back to those, you know, food as medicine sort of things, where it really does reduce the amount of waste. And using the tips that they had in the documentary, using your freezer, using your blender, you know, those bruised fruits, if they haven't made it into the freezer, or even if they have, they can be blended into a delicious smoothie, and so that overall at the end of the day, you'd have less to throw away. I know for myself, between my dog and my chickens, that's helped me to reduce the amount that I'm putting in my compost pile.
All right. Does anybody have one super quick question that we really want to hear? Yeah.
I'm always so bothered when I go to weddings or places that don't allow to take leftovers home. What's up with that? That was fast, right? Very good.
I'm not sure why they wouldn't let you take it. Interestingly, I used to work weddings at the Highlands. They're owned by the Garrison, and there was a lot of food left over, and the staff would take as much as they could.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say. Maybe you don't know behind the scenes. Maybe people are taking it. Probably not all of it, but I'd be open to picking it up.
Well, with that, we do need to leave a couple of minutes at the end to take a picture with our panelists and for everybody in the room to be able to connect with each other if you hadn't been able to in this bigger forum. So I'm going to give each of our panelists, just a minute, I'm going to give each of our panelists just a moment to give us your final thoughts on something that we can do or something that you want us to know about that you might be working on.
The biggest difficulty for me is to get into schools. So if you have connections into schools, if you know teachers, if you know superintendent, if you know the director of facility, if you're just an active parent, that is what it takes for us to get into schools. And so if you can help us with that, we can help your school.
I guess in closing, all I'd like to say is we all make a difference, and I know things are very overwhelming at work and at home, and when you go to events and such, when you organize events, when you organize barbecues, but as you go into this spring and summer season and you're organizing things and you're going to friends' parties, you can make a difference by just planning in advance and trying to limit your limit styrofoam at events. Try to bring your own containers wherever you go. Try to talk to restaurant owners about why are they still using styrofoam. All these little things, they totally add up, and there's, we're all going in the right direction, and I think culture is changing, and we're making a difference, or else we wouldn't all be in this room tonight.
I think I kind of already said it, but just again, take this information home with you and start with yourself and with your family and your kids and your home, and that you can make a difference. So don't feel like it's too much of an issue. I think in all the issues that we have, this is one thing that we can make a difference. We can change those numbers around. It can be done. So together we can make a difference.